It's strange, the clarity that comes in our final moments, when the noise of daily life fades away and the whole timeline of our existence is laid bare. What do we actually see? We imagine our biggest regrets will be born from our biggest failures. The business that went bust, the investment that tanked, the public screw-ups we were sure we'd never survive. But it turns out we're wrong. Deeply, tragically wrong.
When people get to the end of their lives, their greatest regret isn't about the failures they had or the risks they took and lost. The most disturbing regret, the one that haunts their final moments, is for the person they never let themselves become. Their final words reveal a quiet tragedy, how the slow, steady drip of daily excuses ends up creating a lifetime of silent regret. This isn't just one person's story. It's the story of a regret that in some way touches so many of us.
For many years, a palliative care nurse named Bronnie Ware sat with patients in the last 3 to 12 weeks of their lives. In those final, fragile moments, people grow. They find a kind of clarity that we often lose in the mad rush of just living. When she asked them about their regrets, she started to notice a powerful pattern. The same regrets came up over and over again. And the most common one of all was this: I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. This wasn't about wishing they'd gone bungee jumping or had more sex. It was the quiet, haunting feeling that so many of their dreams had gone unfulfilled. She observed that most people hadn't honored even half of their dreams. And they had to die knowing it was because of choices they had made or not made. Think of a man who spends 40 years on the treadmill of a job he's supposed to want. He provides. He succeeds. He does everything he was told was important. He misses his kids growing up and the quiet companionship of his partner, telling himself it's a worthy sacrifice. Bronnie Ware found that almost every male patient she nursed shared this deep regret of working too hard. But beneath that is something even deeper. It's the story of the painter who became a salesman, the writer who became a lawyer, the entrepreneur who stayed in a safe job. It's the person who silenced their own calling just to keep the peace, or to meet an expectation that was never really theirs to begin with. They settled for a mediocre existence and never became who they were truly capable of becoming. This is the slow, silent tragedy. It doesn't happen with a bang. It happens with a whisper, 1,000 tiny surrenders. The dream isn't murdered in one big dramatic moment. It starves to death, quietly and over a long, long time. So why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we build our own cages and then forget we're holding the key? The answer is a paradox of the human mind. We're wired for survival, and survival often means seeking comfort and avoiding risk. But the very thing that keeps us safe is often the same thing that keeps us small. This pattern starts with the best intentions. We tell ourselves, I'll write my book after I get that promotion. I'll travel the world once the kids are grown. I'll start my business when I have more security. We trade our authentic desires for the comforting illusion of someday. The problem is, we act like time is an infinite resource. Psychologists have explored this disconnect from our future selves, sometimes referred to as temporal discounting or a lack of future self-continuity. We see the consequences of our inaction as a problem for a different person to deal with way down the road. This inaction is fueled by fear. Fear of failure, sure, but even more powerfully, fear of judgment. Fear of what people might think. This fear builds a comfort zone, which feels safe, but is really just a cage built from our old habits. At the end, many people realize they stayed stuck in these familiar patterns, pretending to themselves and others that they were content. Deep down, they longed to be silly again, to have a real belly laugh, to feel truly alive. But the fear of change had too strong a grip.
Psychological studies have found that regret over things we didn't do often lasts longer than regret over things we did. Regrets about actions, the mistakes we made, are often easier to process. We can learn from them and move on. But inaction, the road not taken, just festers. It doesn't leave us with a lesson, just a haunting question. What if? Over a lifetime, these what-ifs pile up, creating the heavy burden of a parallel life we never lived. We end up mourning a ghost, the ghost of the person we could have been. Hearing all this, it's easy to feel a sense of dread, to look at your own life and see the small compromises, the postponed dreams, the quiet whispers of someday. But this isn't a story meant to scare you. It's a story meant to wake you up. The wisdom of the dying isn't a curse. It's a gift. It's a roadmap showing us the traps to avoid while we still have time on the clock. Here's the most powerful realization. The life you don't want to regret isn't built in a day. It's built in this day. The antidote to a lifetime of silent regret isn't some massive, earth-shattering life overhaul. It's not about quitting your job tomorrow or booking a one-way ticket across the world, unless that really is your calling. For most of us, it's about making small, consistent, and courageous course corrections. It's about understanding that letting ourselves be happy is a choice. This was another surprisingly common regret Ware heard. The wish that people had simply let themselves be happier. They realized only at the end that it wasn't about their external circumstances. It was an internal permission slip they never signed for themselves. Living a life that's true to yourself isn't about being selfish. It's about integrity. It's about closing the gap between the person you are on the inside and the life you're living on the outside. It's about honoring that unique spark inside you, even if the world tells you it's impractical or foolish. And it starts with one single step. So how do we begin? Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Here are 3 simple, actionable steps grounded in the wisdom of avoiding this great, silent regret. First, the 2-minute rule for your soul. Procrastination is the engine of regret, and it thrives on doing nothing. To break it, find the smallest possible version of your dream and do it for just 2 minutes. Want to be a writer? Don't think about the novel. Just open a document and write 1 sentence. Want to be a painter? Don't worry about a masterpiece. Just get your supplies out. The goal isn't to finish. It's to start. An object in motion stays in motion. Starting, even for just 120 seconds, breaks the cycle of inaction and proves to yourself that you can take a step. Second, when in doubt, reach out. 2 other deep regrets people expressed were not having the courage to express their feelings and losing touch with friends. People often suppress their feelings to keep the peace, which only led to bitterness and resentment. And in the rush of life, they let incredible friendships just slip away. The antidote is connection. Think of one person in your life who sees and supports the real you, the person you are when you're not trying to meet some expectation. Send them a text, make a call, share a small piece of your dream with them. Voicing your authentic self, even to just one person, makes it real. It takes it out of the lonely echo chamber of your mind and gives it air to breathe. This small act rebuilds the vital connections that so many regretted losing. Third, define your own success. The number one regret Ware heard was being untrue to oneself because of the life others expected. We are drowning in other people's definitions of success: the job title, the income, the house. To fight this, take 5 minutes and write down what a truly successful day, month, or year would feel like to you, ignoring all outside approval. Would it be creative, full of connection, full of freedom? Be brutally honest. This act is a quiet rebellion. It's you taking back the steering wheel and deciding on your own destination, rather than blindly following a map someone else handed you. A life without regret is one where you are the author of your own definition of a life well lived. At the end of life, what other people think of you is a long, long way from your mind. The clarity is piercing. All that's left is the stark, unavoidable truth of the choices you made. You realize that health brought a freedom you never appreciated until it was gone. You realize that the quiet, everyday moments with loved ones were the real treasures. And you realize that the ghost of the person you could have become is the most haunting presence in the room. The past is written. The moments you let slip by, the words you didn't say, the chances you didn't take, they're gone. But the future isn't. The story isn't over. This may be a common regret, but it doesn't have to be yours. You are alive, right here, right now. And you have a choice. Life is a choice. It is your life. Choose consciously. Choose wisely. Choose honestly. Choose to let yourself be happier. So, what is one small step, one 2-minute action you will take today to honor the person you want to become? Share it in the comments below. Let's not be a generation that learns this lesson when it's too late. Let's be the generation that lives it.